On to you, Taurus. Hope y'all are having a great day. You, Taurus, have the, excuse me, Page of Pentacles, Judgment, and then you, Taurus, actually have the Moon card. You actually have the Moon card right here. Very interesting. And the reason why that's so interesting is because the Page of Pentacles, the Judgment, and the Moon card speaks to how, like, it actually speaks to a couple of things. It speaks to how it is that you see yourself. It says that you don't care how other people see you. If other people don't like the fact that you, Taurus, are prospering, who cares? They're going to have to keep it to themselves. Even if they can't keep it to themselves, it's not going to affect you any. You, Taurus, are still going to be well off. You're not going to stop doing well just because some people don't like it. You, Taurus, the Ace of Pentacles, excuse me, the Page of Pentacles, you, Taurus, are moving with your head held high. You don't have to feel like, you, Taurus, don't have to feel like you should be embarrassed about anything. You are who you are, right? You know, people like to make it seem like Taurus people are like corny or whatever. Listen, let me explain something to you. It don't matter. It don't matter what it is that they talk about. Because who wants to be with somebody? Because see, this is where you got a lot of people on the internet crying. They're going after they're going after the exciting individual, right? But then they try to be in a relationship with them and it never works. And then they bring their goofy behinds to the internet crying. Why can't I find somebody? Because you like the exciting individual. That's why. And so the Emperor and the Seven of Pentacles right here speaks to how, and so a lot of you are making a lot of good judgments behind the scenes. A lot of you are making very good judgments behind the scenes. Y'all are doing y'all thing as y'all are supposed to. And what I mean when I say your thing, I mean you're making investments, you know, money multipliers, whatever they may be, doing your investments. You set yourself up well for the future to where you don't have to do so much. You can sit back and do less and still get the same result as if you were working, and even more. And you know, you're obviously right, you have the plan, you've been doing it for a while. And so again, just like your Scorpio opposite zodiac sign, you Scorpios have come into the Scorpios have come into some money, and so have you, Taurus, basically, right? I ain't gonna say come into money, I'll say more so where you've come into money by the way of investing over a long period of time, and you, Taurus, actually have a nest egg. So it's like you weren't just stupid or whatever the case may be, or some people may have thought. No, you, Taurus, actually were doing your thing behind the scenes. But again, this is what I mean when I say that, yeah, like, you know, you Taurus are fly and all that stuff. It's just that y'all don't get that. You know, and part of it is you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overdo it and end up like thinking too much of yourselves. But at the same time, again, a lot of you Taurus don't be understanding your own importance as well. And so the Five of Cups, the Ace of Swords, and the Knight of Wands right here. Again, it speaks to how a lot of you Taurus ultimately, you know, you're just kind of upset with yourself that you didn't start doing this stuff sooner. And I'm not referring to the investing. You've probably been doing investing for a long time. I mean, from a perspective of you're just upset with yourself that you, Taurus, didn't stop hanging out with certain individuals from before, right? You know what I mean? you're kind of upset about that same situation, that like, why did it take you so long? Because you realize with this Five of Cups that like, yeah, you know, you may have like had to walk away from a couple of relationships, but what good were those relationships anyway if they were all getting you upset and getting you on your nerves? They weren't really a lot. They weren't really worth a whole lot anyway, right? If that's what it is that they were going to do. And so the Knight of Wands now represents kind of like a new chapter of your lives, where it's like Knight of Wands, Ace of Pentacles, Five of Pentacles. It doesn't really matter if you find someone or if you don't. It's piece of lint. But it doesn't really matter if you find someone or if you don't. It's a sense of like, you'll go and talk to people when you're ready. You know? You know? I think I swallowed the lint. I think I swallowed the lint. But the point is, that's how you know that I'm a geek. Ugh. That's how you know that I'm a geek for real. Or a nerd. But yeah, you Taurus basically are in a situation where like, you know, you will go and speak to the person if you want to. You know, you're not necessarily in find mode, right? You gotta go and look. You're more so in the sense of, yeah, you're not afraid to go over and talk if you want to. You know, you don't want to shoot your shot all the time. There's times where I see a lot of beautiful individuals, but it's like I'm reading the room, and sometimes, to be transparent with y'all, I don't want to go up and talk to anybody. You know, and I've talked about this before. This is what it is that I was talking about in my last Taurus reading, as a matter of fact. This is what I was talking about in my last Taurus reading, talking about how I was saying for you, Taurus, to redefine or to define your own destiny. And what I mean by that is to not let anyone kind of set you up by blind dates, or if a person that you don't like tries to holler at you, you don't like them based upon their character, based upon who they are. The two of y'all don't have the same value system. What I'm trying to say here is sometimes people, what I was trying to say, right, is that sometimes people are entitled. There's been plenty of people whom I myself have dated or tried to get to know romantically, and they had the mentality of, I like you, so because I like you, you need to actually pay me interest. You need to actually show me interest back. You know, and how I know that they were entitled to it was because when I would try to basically let them, basically tell them no straight up and just be like, nah, because I don't think our value system is the same. They're not actually really listening to that. They're kind of being a little bit insistent. Like, I insist that we get together, and it's like, but if we get together, what benefit am I actually getting? See, it's a whole game even with that, because the game with that is this is about, again, the hypergamy thing, right? The mentality of like, you not actually going to get what you looking for or what you want. You got to be okay with what you're given. So even if it's table scraps, you got to be okay and just shut up and take the table scraps, because y'all are just supposed to accept anything. And then it's like, when you decide to say, nah, right, forget about that, and you're going to go after what you want, this is where it starts to ruffle feathers, because now it's like that the people whom will give you a good time or who make things easier on you at first, you realize that after a time, when they think that they got you interested, they're going to start to do the same goofy nonsense and play games with you and ignore you too. And none of your needs are going to get met. You know what I mean? And I know, because it happened to me. So I was saying, right, and the same thing that I'm saying here kind of in this reading, but taking it another step further in the sense, or a few steps further, in the sense that you, Taurus, sometimes you, and I've talked about this before as well, sometimes you shouldn't have to always be the one on the prowl going after a person. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Sometimes you put in so much work, you don't have to always be the one showing up. Like they even used to teach you that in pickup artistry, right? Even though I was never big into it. I studied it, but I never really got big into it where it was something where I really like focused and had tunnel vision with. That's one of the things that they teach you even in pickup artistry, is the fact that like when there's times where like you could get to know so many people to the point where, or talk to so many people to the point where you end up like just getting tired of it for the night. And then it's like you just chill out. You just like, look, nah, because you were out here trying to put in the work. Let people come to you for a little bit. And one of the things that you realize is, again, the Five of Pentacles. A lot of times people are scared to really try to come talk to you. That's the reason why it seemed like you got to do the work. They hiding it behind, oh, well, I'm bringing in all this value and you lame, you Taurus are lame. They're hiding it behind that. What it really is that they don't really bring in a whole lot of value, or they may be questioning their value that they can bring to you. And so because they're intimidated, because they don't necessarily know if they can bring you value and stuff like this, because they're kind of shaky with what they can bring, what happens is that they have to couch it in, oh, well, you Taurus are individuals and you Taurus just don't deserve. See, when you Taurus start thinking like that, when you let them talk to you like that, this is when it is that you start to think to yourself, well, maybe they're right? Maybe, especially when you're inexperienced. So what I'm saying is, you Taurus are out here looking, but you're not necessarily going to be looking all the time. It's a good idea for you, Taurus. Honestly, one thing that I'm learning is it's a good idea to mix looking, right? To be actively looking, but at the same time, sometimes sit back and learn how to get approached. This is why I was telling y'all that it's a good idea. You don't want to do exclusively one of the two. You want to learn how to get good with both. You want to learn how to get good with offense and defense. You don't want to learn how to get good at just offense. You go talk to people, talk, but it just looks like you hollering at anything. And then not only that, but you start to get super frustrated because it's like, why aren't things working? And at that point, you start doing it so much, you're not really learning anything at that point. Because sometimes you do have to take a little bit of a break or a pause for you to be able to actually comprehend what you were doing wrong, to fix those things, right? To tweak, to turn those things into a strength, right? And then you shouldn't be super defensive where it's, nah, I'm going to wait until somebody come to me, because people aren't mind readers. And a lot of people do that. A lot of times people will allow decent, great people, to walk out of their life and walk right past them and walk right out of their lives. They probably never see these people ever again in their life. And New York City, like for instance, New York City is one of those places where if a person does not come down, I live in Manhattan, right? If a person lives in another borough in New York City, if they do not come to Manhattan, whatnot often, I may never see them again. Because the other boroughs have all the same thing that, I'm going to say all, but a lot of the same things that Manhattan does. Hospitals, grocery stores, obviously homes, residentials, stuff like this. They have a lot of the same things that Manhattan does. Now, Manhattan has more than them at the end of the day, more variety. But the basics of what it is that a person needs in order to live in a city, they have it in those boroughs. So so real talk. So there's times where it's like, if you don't actually choose up, as much people live here, if you don't actually choose up, you will end up not ever seeing the person ever again. It's like that. It's like that for real. It's like that. There's people who I thought were beautiful. I have never saw them again. It's been 10 years plus. Never saw them again. Why? And we live in New York City. Why? It's just like that. Right? And so it's a good idea to get in a good mix of both. You Taurus can afford to get in a good mix of both, because ultimately you Taurus can really do whatever you want. You can afford to lay back and rest a little bit more, because if you Taurus have any kind of investments, you'll notice in your own life that your investments are starting to be able to cover a lot more of your living expenses. And so you end up doing a lot less physically in order to get the money that you would have attained. So let's clarify the Five of Pentacles. King of Swords, Knight of Wands, Seven of Wands, Empress, and then you have the High Priestess for you Taurus. So again, the King of Swords, the Knight of Wands, the Seven of Wands. If other people don't come holler at you sometimes, they're going to miss out on you. Like I said before, my dear Taurus, it's a good idea to get in a good mix of the two. You don't want to be overweighted in applying pressure, trying to holler, and you don't want to be overweighted in sitting back a little bit too much and not actually, you know, pouncing on an opportunity when you have the chance, because that's how you end up missing out on a good thing. And so the Empress and the High Priestess, right, represents how you Taurus, abundance, you know, a lot more confidence, knowing the difference, right, knowing when to, you know, timing, knowing when to just, how do I say this, right? Not always approaching, right? Sitting back, allowing yourself to be approached. If you don't get approached, oh well, sometimes, you know, you are okay with walking away from it, or letting the person walk out of your life. Feeling like, you know, and then you have the Empress and the High Priestess as well, feeling like you have so much to offer, you know, and it's anyone's given loss if they don't at least give you a chance. So that's it. Comment on the video, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share the video. Trying to get the YouTube channel to 100K. I'm at 21,236 subscribers. Smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, hit the notification bell. Set the notification bell to all so you can be notified whenever I drop my videos. There's a link in the comment section below called a Linktree link if you'd like to get a personal reading from me. Peace.